4D Bleeding Vampire Mouth Acrylic Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish.
Hi everybody, in today's video I have a very 4D vampire mouth and the little vampire teeth actually bleed. I have a little pipette underneath the nail that is filled with fake blood. If you guys want to try out this design, I do have some pipettes listed on my online store and I'll put a link to that in the description box below. So if you are looking for them, I have them there, and I will see everybody in my next video. Bye!
I'm going to begin with an overlay of white acrylic, so I wanted to keep my background very light so that when the vampire teeth bled out that you would be able to see the blood really well against the background. So if you did something like a black background, it just wouldn't show up as well. So a nice bright light white background was kind of the way to go. So just apply that over the top of the entire nail, and then after you have it that far, you're going to want to encase it with a layer of clear acrylic. And I always say this, encasing it with a layer of clear is vital to making sure that the nail is going to be strong, but it's even more vital on a super long nail like this. So you don't want to, on a shorter nail, the chance of breaking is reduced just because there's going to be less wear and tear and pressure on them. But on a really long one, you definitely need to make sure that it is strong enough not to snap. Then I'm going to file the nail into shape with my e-file. I started out with a fairly coarse bit to remove any bulk. And on a nail of this length, I probably would normally recommend using a hand file just to refine it a little bit more. Sometimes e-files just don't quite get them as perfect as I'd like, and so that's also an option. And I'm using a finer bit to smooth it out some. Now I'm going to be applying a layer of no wipe gel top coat over the entire nail. Cure that, and then I'm going to be burnishing in some white chrome powder. So I wanted this nail to be kind of a little glam nail, a very glamorous little vampire. Remove any dust and then apply some gel sealer over the top of that and cure it once more. And after that's on there, then you're going to drill a hole straight through the center of the nail where you want your mouth to be. So if you want the mouth right at the tip, drill it towards the tip. If you want the mouth up higher on the nail, make it up higher, but keep in mind it has to be past where the fingertip is. So drill the hole large enough for your pipette to fit through. So as you can see, I was just testing it to make sure it was big enough. Then on a little eyedropper, I'm going to be painting a little cap with some builder gel, and then I topped it with some gel top coat so it wasn't sticky anymore. And I pinched my eyedropper so that I'd create an oval instead of a little perfect circle. Then glue that over the hole that's in the nail. And after that glue has set, I'm going to be filling in around it with some clear acrylic. So you don't want any holes in this, you don't want any gaps, except for obviously the hole that's underneath it. But you don't want any holes or gaps on the outside edge between the nail and this little oval thing that you made with some clear builder gel. So you want to fill in all of those, because any place where there's a gap, you're going to have blood leaking out. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to drill two tiny little holes, as tiny as I can get them, into my little oval thing with an e-file. And then I'm going to cut the nose off my pipette, or the mouth area, the long skinny part, and take those long skinny little tubes and glue them into my mouth base. So the reason I use this is these were the skinniest little straw things I could find, and they worked perfectly. So just glue those in so they're sticking out, and then secure them, so fill in any gaps around those as well with clear acrylic. Make sure that you don't fill either of the holes of your little teeth with acrylic, because you want them to be tubes that go all the way through. Now I'm going to start sculpting my mouth with black acrylic. So the first layer is just going to be kind of the inside of the mouth. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy. If you get some acrylic on the tubes and they start to turn black, that's fine. But just kind of fill in that first base layer. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's a little funky working on top, because it's almost like on a little platform that you're working on top of with the spacer that it's on top of. So you just have to, I don't know, it's a little weird. It turns out in the end, and as long as you know that and you're okay with messing around with it at this stage, it's perfectly fine. But it's a little weird. And actually, when I was making it at this point, I'm like, I don't think this thing is going to work out. This is just too weird looking at this point with these two little pieces sticking out, and yeah, but it did it. And if you stick with it, it'll be fine, I promise. Then take some pink acrylic and add a little tongue. And then with white acrylic, you're going to want to sculpt your fangs. So the fangs you need to sculpt so that the point of the fang ends up on the end of the little tube that is in the nail. So there's the first fang right on top. And you want, like I said, the end of the little fang to end up at the end of the tooth. That way when the blood is underneath the nail, it comes through that oval we made and then through the tubes and out. So it looks like the teeth are leaking blood, which I'm sure somebody's going to comment on this. The fangs suck blood in, they don't leak it out. But I just thought it'd be a cool nail idea, so I decided even if it's a little inaccurate, it would still be a cool concept. And add a little bit more to my tongue. I decided it wasn't quite pink enough or big enough. A little bit more there. Add some tongue to the sides of the fangs. like so. And then after you have that done, you're going to want to start actually sculpting the teeth between the fangs. So take a little bit of white acrylic and just apply it and then spread it out. Don't worry about doing individual teeth at this point. Sculpt one large tooth area. And then after you let that acrylic set for a minute, then you can take the tip of your brush and separate the teeth. I personally think this is an easier method than trying to do each tooth individually, just to make one bigger tooth and then separate it. But if you want to do them individual, that's definitely your choice. And then I kind of missed recording this, but there's a couple teeth on the bottom that show. Then take some red acrylic and you're going to press that right along the bottom. So this actually sticks up really far off the nail. It sticks up probably a 1/4 inch or more, which doesn't sound like much, but when you're working on it, it's really far off the nail. So when you're applying this red acrylic, you have to consider the fact that you need to apply it all the way down to the nail. So it takes more acrylic than you may think at first, because, you know, just little lips, but you have to actually cover all of that weirdness that's going on underneath it that makes this mouth bleed. For the upper lip, I did that in 2 sections so that I'd get a nice little Cupid's bow. So there's the first one. And like I said in the beginning of this video, I wanted this to be a very glam nail. So I wanted her lips to be bright red and on the larger side, very plump, luscious lips, if you will. So there is the second layer to the bottom lip. And the bottom lip I ended up doing in a few different layers just to get it to be the appropriate thickness, I thought, so that it looked balanced from the upper lip to the lower lip. And after that, has the first half of the upper lip has set a little bit. I'm going to go through and add the second half. Just kind of stretch that around and then tuck it in a little bit. And try to get it to be as symmetrical from one side to the other as you can. And the great thing with working on top of gel sealer, which is what is over the top of the nail, is that it lets you play around with your acrylic a little bit more. It's going to smooth out the underside of that upper lip. And if a little bit of red stains your teeth, that's okay. We can fix that with some paint in a moment. One last little thickening layer to the lower lip, like that. It just takes, you know, some time. This design definitely is one that will test your patience, and it's worth it in the end if you ask me, because it was just so, I absolutely love the way it turned out. But if you are not feeling like dealing with it, then you might want to keep that in mind. But here's the last little layer to that lower lip. And then after that, I was just looking at it and decided, you know what, this needs something along the cuticle. So I took some more of my red acrylic that was sitting right next to me, and I decided to add drips coming down from the cuticle with it. So just take a little bit more wet beads than you might normally use and apply them starting at where you want the drip to end, and then pull it towards the cuticle area. And you don't want all of your drips to be the same length. You want them to be a little bit varied, different thicknesses. They have to go down the nail a little bit farther. You want it to look like somebody just poured blood down the nail. There's a little bit more. Add a couple more. Add them so that they go all the way to the edges of the nail. You want to fill in the nail as best as you can. Just a little bit more on the sides. And then after you have all of the drips in place, you're going to want to take smaller beads of acrylic and attach them from one to the next so that you fill in that upper area around the cuticle. So there's that. Add a little bit more. Connect all of them. Kind of play connect the dots here with it. Fill that all in. And then after you have that done, we're going to start adding some details with acrylic paint. So with black paint, I'm going to go through and kind of outline everything. I want the teeth to be outlined. Some of my black inside the mouth, which doesn't show up in the video as much, but it wasn't as black as I wanted it to be. So I basically just filled in my mouth as well to make it a little bit more dramatic. Add a half outline on each of the drips. And I'm sorry, I'm off camera. But add just on one side so that they aren't completely highlighted or outlined. Then I'm going to take a brighter shade of red and I'm going to be highlighting both my lips and the drips. Just like that. So again, I'm sorry, I'm off camera. If you guys, I know, and people comment on this saying that you can make a square, and I've thought of it. I've thought of how that would work, and I haven't figured it out. And usually I'm really careful about it, but some of these designs, if you guys want to know, I did 3 months worth of videos in 3 weeks because I'm preparing for Nails Next Top Nail Artist. And so I was just kind of in like a workhorse mode, and a couple of these little details, like making sure I was on camera, got overlooked. I added some highlights to my lips and the tongue with a brighter shade of pink. Add some highlights with white to the lips and to the teeth. This is where if you got any of your red acrylic on your teeth, you can fix it. And then apply some gel sealer over everything pretty much. Make sure that you don't block up the holes at the ends of your fangs when you're doing this. So just cover up everything like so. After that's cured, then the fun part is you're going to fill a pipette with blood. So there's my little fake blood, and this is fake blood that you can buy at any Halloween store. And then I'm going to clean off the little end of it so that there isn't any fake blood, just with some nail cleanser on a wipe. Then glue your pipette into the nail. And if you don't want to glue the pipette in, if you want to be able to take it out so that you only have it where it leaks blood temporarily, don't glue it and don't secure it with the builder gel as I'm doing now. Just skip those steps and just hold it in there when you're ready to use it. And then after that's all done and cured and set and all of that great stuff, you can really freak some people out. I absolutely love doing these crazy nails. I had some other bleeding nails last year with pipettes, and I'll put links to those in the description box below. One of my favorite ones was a skull that had blood that came out the eyes. That was one of my favorite nails I've ever done, so I'll definitely put a link to that, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!